today's gonna be a good day. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome into the July 5th edition of Morning Hockey Shot. I am Andrew McDougall, coming to you live from a hotel room in Melbourne. So hopefully you can see me okay on the screen. Got a big show today. I don't think we are actually live on Instagram. I know that the streaming service that I use is having trouble with Instagram and Meta. So I don't think that's up and running this morning, but we do have a big show today. As I had announced during the week, we do have the CEO of the Brave, Stephen Campbell, to come on and just have a bit of a chat about the Canberra Brave and the AIS Arena, which has been a big move this season, not only for the Brave, but also for the league itself this season. So it's really exciting to see the growth of ice hockey and the Brave in Canberra as well. But thanks for tuning in. We are live on Facebook and YouTube. You can find my work at andrewkmacdougall.com.au. So hit the like, follow, subscribe, do all that sort of stuff for us, for the algorithm. It just helps us grow and reach more people. And obviously it will help hockey grow as well. If you've got a comment, drop it in the chat as well. And we can hopefully hit Stephen with some hard-hitting questions about AIS Arena when Stephen comes on. Just before Stephen does jump in, I won't keep him too long this morning. I know Stephen is a busy person. I'll just chuck up the menu for today. Obviously, we have Stephen Campbell at the top. We'll have a bit of a chat about the Melbourne Derby last night, which was a big night for the Melbourne Ice. The North Stars have got a big weekend ahead of them as well. We'll talk about the Melbourne Ducks, who had a signing in the Australian Women's Ice Hockey League. We'll have a look at the standings and the schedule, and I'll give my pick of the week because I left last week's show and I actually forgot to give my pick of the week. So I'll give my game of the week or my series of the week later on in the show as well. But right now we have Stephen sitting in the background. So I'll bring Stephen straight in. We can get stuck into the Canberra Brave in the AIS Arena. Stephen Campbell, welcome to Morning Hockey Shot.
Thanks for having me.
I won't keep you too long this morning. I know some of the guests I've had on so far, I've kept them a little bit longer than I initially said. I know you're a busy person. I was thinking about when you were, before you came on, about AIS Arena. I think you've played two home series there, 2 weekends now. Can you take us back to the first Saturday before you're playing that AIS Arena? What was the feeling? Was it nerves? Was it excitement? Was it how did you feel before that first puck drop at AIS Arena?
Tired. It had been a big couple of weeks installing the rink. We had a wonderful band of volunteers and some paid crew that were working 16, 18-hour days to try and get the rink in place. We obviously did a lot of media as well. It was a flurry of activity literally for 2 weeks. So yes, we were excited. I was a little bit nervous because it's a huge undertaking and there are many elements that could have gone wrong. And there are also a number of elements that we simply didn't know. You don't know the unknowns. So we were conscious of that. But it all went swimmingly well. In fact, the only hiccup we really had was the delay in entry, and that's because we had so many people. We had a sellout crowd. The AIS Arena is really designed for basketball and netball. So there are, for those games, there are 2 entry points. There's one to the top concourse, and then there's a set of stairs at ground level. But because of obviously the size of the rink, we don't have any seating at ground level except for VIP. So the vast majority of the 3,000 spectators had to go through one set of doors. So there were some teething problems with that. And we also had everybody rock up at the same time. So we've been encouraging people to get there early so that we can systematically get people through. But as the games have progressed, we've fine-tuned that entry and ushering to seats to the point where we hopefully we've got it down pat.
When did the idea of AIS Arena, I suppose, come to mind? I know obviously Kerry Goulet's been involved with it as well and has got a background in building rinks here. Yeah. When did that idea of, and we obviously know Phillips goes to the heart of Brave fans, and There's a lot of culture there and a lot of history there at that rink. And obviously the Brave over recent years have been very successful, good all cups, and increasing the fan base and the sponsorship and all that sort of stuff. When did the idea come to move into AIS Arena?
When I took the team on in 2022. At that point, the arena had been closed for what had been been closed for a while. It had reopened as a vaccination centre during the COVID period, and then post that it was undergoing some major remodelling to bring it up to standard for fire access and egress. So it was really at that point I had a vision and I've always had a vision to grow ice hockey nationally. This isn't just about Canberra Brave. The one thing that all hockey teams struggle with is a lack of facilities, and lack of facilities that can really accommodate large spectator numbers. There are a couple, but not many. And certainly Phillip wasn't cutting it for us. Phillip's a very tired venue. That the amenities are quite poor. It was extraordinarily expensive. Phillip is the most expensive rink in the country to play games out of, and not just by a little bit. We were paying in the end 8 times more per hour than any other team. So there was a cost consideration, but also this growth opportunity and vision. So despite having that idea in 2022, the arena just wasn't open for business, and it wasn't until last year, where they opened mid-season for the Capitals to play, that I started having had a formal discussion with the CE, and then we progressed that to. So we sort of went backwards and forwards a little bit, and then we had some formal meetings at the beginning of this year, 2025.
Is there in terms of profitability with AIS Arena, is there a set sort of, I suppose, attendance figure that the Brave need to hit to get into that profitability mark?
There is. There was a break even for cost point. But with these large venues, the structure and how the payments work are quite complicated. So you've got a venue fee, and then you've got on costs, and some of those on costs are determined by the event itself. So the number of security that you have on, the number of cleaning staff. So there's a lot of costs there. There's also, the energy costs in this country are absurd and only getting more absurd. So at the moment we're paying, just to give you an idea, for the cost of chillers, that's $6,000 a week. The cost of energy is $7,000 a week. So that people see large numbers and think they must be a very profitable team. We're just breaking even. So the cost of such a venue like that in the first year was always going to be high. Next year we'll be able to mitigate some of those costs, because a lot of the rink costs we've already borne in the first year, because we've purchased a lot of those components. Not all. We'll purchase the remainder of those components next year, but then in year 3 onwards, we should be in a position to hopefully turn the club into at least break even.
That was one of the things I was going to ask you. Is there a long-term commitment with AIS Arena?
There's a 3-year, so it's a 2 + 1 year agreement. We didn't want to commit ourselves beyond that for 2 reasons. One, obviously we've got the Tuggeranong facility, which is subject to a contract that we're waiting on from government to build, and we didn't know, whilst we were quietly confident, we didn't know what the appetite for a large stadium would be. So we didn't want to lock ourselves into a long-term contract if we're only getting 1,800 people to a game, because we'd run at a significant loss with 1,800 people. So, but we've demonstrated that every game to date has been a sellout. Today again, we're playing against the Rhinos, and we've got 2,900 people coming to a game. Our biggest challenge is how we satisfy all those people who are wanting tickets, because we just don't have enough. In fact, a discussion I had with the AIS last week we're looking at for next year how we can tweak it so we can fit in a few more seats, because ideally an extra 400 to 500 would be useful, and I think we'd sell them as well. In terms of our longer term vision, it's put a question mark on what we do with Tuggeranong. We're committed to a twin sheet arena, but our growth proposal, and I had an interview with the Canberra Times last week, is for the new National Convention Centre, which is a 6,000 to 8,000 seat stadium, to look at negotiating with government and their design team so that we put in the embedded infrastructure for ice so that it becomes operational in the same manner that Madison Square Gardens or many of the North American centres do, so that we can pull up and down the boards very quickly rather than having a sort of a two-week installation time, which costs a lot of money, requires a lot of bodies, as opposed to a changeover which would be 8 hours.
I am here with Stephen Campbell, the CEO of the Canberra Brave. Drop a comment in the chat if you've got a question for Stephen, just discussing AIS Arena. I did read that article about the Madison Square Garden style. It's quite exciting if we can get that over the line. How are governments towards, I suppose, ice hockey or ice sports in general when you're negotiating? Are they sort of welcoming to the idea?
Look, I think the challenge across the country is that whilst we have a dedicated fan base and they're very loyal, they're very loud. We have to accept the reality that ice hockey at the moment is still a minority sport in the country. And I accept that part of that is because we just don't have the infrastructure to be able to grow it to how we would like. I think the move to the AIS has done a couple of things. It's proven a concept, and that is that if you build something that can accommodate bowl seating, so that people are intimately engaged with the sport, then the people will come. That's the first thing. It also then sends a message to government that, well, hang on a minute, here is a sport that's actually rivaling the traditional sports that we see as being majors. So if you take the Brave in the ACT, in terms of spectator numbers, we're now third only to Raiders and Brumbies, the two rugby teams. And then there's a massive drop when you go to the teams below that. So whilst I think government have been sort of reluctant to put much investment into ice sports, I think they're now going to have to start and recognise that this isn't just a minor sport in the ACT, at least. It's a major sport, and we need to give it proper recognition. I actually put a business case to the government ahead of any decisions on the AIS, and we sought some equivalent funding. Actually, we're after half the funding that the local Capitals and United teams get, so the women's basketball and the women's soccer. And as part of that business case, we looked at the inbound tourism dollars that would flow on, and that we would also bring the USA-Canada series at our cost. That was rejected, which was a little bit disappointing. We will go back to government because my figures were actually too conservative, because the inbound tourism dollars ended up being much more than what we had anticipated. So 23% of our tickets are all purchased outside of the ACT. So that's people who are coming into the ACT, they're spending on accommodation, they're spending on retail, and they're spending in hospitality. So there's now a very solid economic argument for the ACT government to get behind some support financially in the AIS.
And we do know as well, ice hockey fans are quite loyal, and they and they do travel. And they do travel well. I'll be up there, obviously, as you know, Stephen, next weekend. So I'm one of those that's booking accommodation and all those things and putting back into the local economy. We do have some comments in the chat as well. A few people thanking you for the 2 p.m. puck drops. Thank you for the Sunday 2 p.m. starts at AIS. Much easier on logistics for traveling teams and fans. Is that something that was definitely in frame of mind with AIS Arena and at the 2 p.m. puck drops, or is that how it sort of just fell?
No, that was a deliberate decision. Look, it helps travelling teams because you're able to get home a bit earlier, and for some teams it means that they can get home on a Sunday rather than having to have the cost of an additional night's accommodation to fly out on the Monday. But also, whenever you're doing double headers, the Sunday crowd is always a bit more difficult because you got families, they've got children. Preferably, as a parent myself, you want to have your children home and fed and in bed at an early hour ahead of the school day the next day. So, 4 and 5 p.m. games make that really difficult for families. What we've now found with the 2 p.m. slot, we've got some really good data on this. The number of children and families that are attending on the Sunday is much higher than the Saturday. So it's become that sort of family day experience, which is great. And we're starting to change the in-game entertainment that we have put in place to accommodate that change in demographic for those days.
Wonderful. Claire Collins as well, who I know is involved with the Central Coast Rhinos. Can't wait to see it today. And also so good for hockey in Australia. It's growing for sure. I do agree, Claire. I think it's great for hockey. In terms of the families in the AIS Arena, I'm guessing it's obviously been able to increase your fan activation as well, inside and outside of the arena. What can fans expect when they show up to AIS Arena?
One of the commitments that when we made the announcement that we wanted was that we were going to deliver a true NHL style experience. So we put a lot of time and effort. We've got some great branding and marketing partners, Super Curious. A big shout out to Jamie and Peyton and Warren and the team. We invested in a full light synchronized program. So when you come in, it's an entertainment package. It's not just about watching two teams go head to head. It's about completely immersing yourself in the atmosphere and engagement. So we have these mic drops. We have the first game we had a competition. One half of the venue versus the other half singing "Sweet Caroline," and it was a pretty awesome experience to have 3,000 people singing against each other. So I think for the first time in Australia, the venue has enabled us to, because it's full bowl, have that complete interaction, not just with the teams that are playing, but also against and with themselves. We had a fantastic experience. I think it's the last Sunday game. There were lots of kids just sitting behind the VIP area, about 30 kids. I think there was a birthday party, and they're all around sort of 10 to 12-year-olds and mostly boys. And they tried for almost a period to get a Mexican wave happening, and nobody could actually work out what it was that they were trying to do. But then it suddenly people had cottoned on that what they were wanting to do was get the crowd to engage with the Mexican wave, and they did it. And these boys were so excited that the crowd had engaged with them. And I thought, that's where we want hockey to be, where young kids can go there. They can watch their idols play hockey, and then walk away with an experience that they'll be telling their friends at school for the next 12 months.
I got a comment here from Ronnie Flanagan as well. Not a bad seat in the house. It was one of my concerns, Stephen, when the arena was announced, was seating, because obviously it's built more for basketball. Are you pleased with the seating and how much of the ice people can view? Absolutely.
One of the benefits of the AIS, and you'll see this when you go down there, that the seating is actually quite elevated. So I think it's around 4 meters, at least 3 meters, the first tier of seating above ground level. So no matter where you are, and it's quite steeply raked, so no matter where you are, you have this literal 45-degree viewing angle into the rink. So there are no heads. If you've got a 7-foot person sitting in front of you, you are still going to have uninterrupted view of the ice. So from those sort of design aspects, there is no bad seat in the house. It's very good.
One of the things that was recently announced as well, and I'm guessing is very exciting, is the Brave will actually be a part of the Ice Hockey Classic. And we mentioned Kerry Goulet as well. Was that something that was always in the works, or is it something that's recently popped up? And how excited is the club to be involved in something like that?
Very excited. So look, I've known Kerry for many years, and I was keen to have the relaunch of the USA Canada series in the ACT. The original proposal was that there would be 2, possibly 3 games. And what I said to Kerry is that, look, let's do something for the players. It's an opportunity for players to play against some of the best players in North America. And he said, "Yeah, why not?" So the plan was that we would do a intro game, which is on the 26th, which is Brave versus USA. We will complement our team with some of the Canadian players who will be rested that weekend, but it'll be a majority Brave roster, which will give an opportunity for them to play in front of another packed house at a very high level.
Yeah,
and the players are super excited.
Yeah, I could only imagine. I was actually thinking about the Brave this morning and the actual team itself. And I feel like, and it's probably something that maybe a lot of people don't think about, but I sort of think it plays a massive role. And I think you're starting to see that now with the team. It might have taken them a little bit of time to adjust to the ice surface and the rink at AIS, moving from Phillip. Are you seeing that as well in the change of play?
Certainly the change of play. Look, the Phillip rink, it's not a good rink for playing ice hockey. For those who have been down to the Phillip rink, it comprises cage wire, and that obviously is not designed for the puck. So the puck doesn't travel as quickly or smoothly around the rink as it does on those with fast boards and glass. When you have flexibility, and you've got the glass, which is set in steel posts which are designed to flex, so you can check more heavily and not cause serious injury to the player, because we don't want that in the sport. We want to see good hits, but we don't want to see people carted off in an ambulance. So players were quite respectful, and sort of, I think they curtailed some of the play in the corners where there were solid structural elements at Phillip. What we've seen with the AIS Arena and how the rink is designed, it is a proper rink with proper boards and glass, and with that flexibility. We've seen that the amount of checking and boarding is a lot higher. The movement of the puck is also much greater as well. In fact, it rips around those boards. The radiuses of the boards are really good, so it looks like it's accelerating around. Obviously, that's not how physics work, but it's certainly changed the speed of the game, and I think it's changed the way in both the home team and the away teams how they play their offensive game.
I'm here with the CEO of the Canberra Brave, Stephen Campbell. Drop a comment in the chat if you got a question about the AIS Arena or the Canberra Brave before I let you go. One last one from me, Stephen, then I'll let you get off for the rest of your day. We've seen around the country, Adelaide, obviously their facility, they need an upgrade as well. A lot of facilities around the country, and we've spoken about before about the 2 ice sheets and the convention centre. We've obviously got AIS Arena up and running. How confident are you about Canberra getting these fresh facilities in the future? Is it a pipe dream? Is it something that you actually really feel like can be achieved for ice hockey here?
Absolutely can be achieved. They're my projects. So I think one of the things that people don't understand is the time that it takes to get these projects off the ground is much longer than building an apartment complex or a bulky goods store. Mostly because in order for sporting infrastructure to be viable, there needs to be a component from government. There are no privately owned sporting centres, with the exception of 1 or 2 swimming pools around the country and ice rinks. So the planning and development, the private-public partnerships have complexities that most sporting projects don't have. So they take time. The issue with Tuggeranong, we're still waiting on a contract from government. The government have acknowledged publicly that they will provide that contract to us in July, so the next few weeks, which is a positive sign. But I do want to stress that our relationship with government is very good. Despite we've had a bit of a spat publicly over the last couple of weeks, it's a good working relationship, and both of us recognise that there are a number of steps that you need to go through. We've had to do 2 environmental reports. We've got 200 trees that need to be removed, which is problematic. The site itself, we're not enamored with. It has a number of complexities with traffic management, the removal of trees. The site has a significant slope, and we have been looking for other sites, and we'll continue to do that concurrent with us going down the path with Tuggeranong. But should it be determined that Tuggeranong is not feasible, and it may or may not be, Tuggeranong is a site that we're going to develop. We've finally got planning approval for a facility in Playford, and we are working on a second facility, which we haven't made any announcements on where that's going to be, which we believe can be up and running very quickly.
One last one, as you were just talking then, and then I'll let you go. I had been talking to people. I'm not sure of the geographical area of the ACT or Canberra, but some people have mentioned to me that Tuggeranong is sort of out of the way a little bit. I'm not sure if that is true, and is that a concern when trying to build these facilities?
Absolutely, it's a concern, and it is out of the way. It's very south. What I've said publicly is that this is the last opportunity to build a rink. So once we've built this, there won't be another one built in the ACT for 35 to 40 years. That's the reality.
Yep.
So I think it's really important that the site location is suitable to grow ice sports. Now, the Ice Sports Federation, for whatever reason, don't share this view of mine. They're so desperate for a facility, they will take it wherever. But I think we need to be a little bit more nuanced in our decision making. That if we're sincerely about wanting to grow all ice sports, it's not just about ice hockey, but broomball and figure skating and curling and some others, speed skating and others that we could introduce. We really need to maximise the accessibility of the facility, and that's why my suggestion to government was that we need to reconsider the site and look at something that's more central. You wouldn't put the National Convention Centre down south. The government spends a fortune on Floriade. It's a great event. It attracts people from not just around the country, but from around the world. You wouldn't do that either north or south. It's done centrally, and those decisions are done with that in mind. It's about how you maximise the accessibility for everybody. The same should be done with an ice rink. In fact, I'd say particularly with an ice rink, because we don't have or won't have any others. You wouldn't put the only tennis court down in Tuggeranong. There'd be an uproar.
Yeah.
So why would we settle for less for ice sports?
Yeah, absolutely. It's very exciting, Stephen, for the sport of ice hockey and ice sports, as you mentioned, in general, and also the Canberra Brave to have one AIS Arena, but also to hopefully have these facilities in the works and up and running in the future. I know you're a busy person and you've got a big day ahead. You've got the Rhinos and it's another packed house and a sellout at AIS Arena. Thanks for jumping on the morning hockey shot, and I'll catch up with you next weekend when I'm up there to check out the arena. Looking forward to it. Thank you very much. There he goes, Stephen Campbell, the CEO of the Canberra Brave. A bit of a chat about AIS Arena and everything that's going on in the ACT for ice hockey and the Canberra Brave. I think it's fantastic to see AIS Arena up and running and a full bowl, and it's very exciting. And you hear the feedback from the fans and the travelling support as well about the experience and how excited they are and how good the experience is at AIS Arena. So I'm looking forward to getting up there next weekend as well. And I've got some plans in the works with the Canberra Brave to do a bit of video and try and bring AIS Arena to your eyes and a bit of a different take on it as well. So I'm looking forward to heading up there. And the Rhinos fans that are heading across today, they'll be extra excited as well, as we had Claire Collins in the comments before. But I do thank Stephen for jumping on and giving up some of his time just to have a chat about the ins and outs of AIS Arena and how it all came to be and the process so far in future ice rinks. Drop a comment in the chat. Let me know what you think of Stephen. We'll bring the menu back up as well from this morning. Obviously, we had Stephen Campbell on. I wanted to talk about the Melbourne Derby. It was live and free, the fourth and final Melbourne Derby for the season on aihl.tv. I know a lot of people tuned in when it was announced that it was free, which is a good thing, I think. I know a friend of mine who invited some people to the last Melbourne Derby. It was their very first experience with ice hockey. They logged in, signed up, and tuned into the Melbourne Derby last night, and it was a big win for the Melbourne Ice. They got the win 5-2 over the Melbourne Mustangs, and the Melbourne Ice now still haven't lost in regulation, which is unbelievable when you think about it. 20 games played this season, haven't lost in regulation. Went 2 for 4 on the power play. So that was one of the big things last night that I noticed on the little bit that I can watch. Obviously, I'm running around trying to film and shoot and photo and all that sort of stuff. But the power plays really, really hurt the Melbourne Ice last night. And I think they'd acknowledge that as well. And if you give players of the caliber that the Melbourne Ice have on their roster, the Colton Shindles and the David Booths and players like that, if you give them enough opportunities, they will put them away. And that's what they did last night. And it was a very physical game between the two teams, which you sort of expect in the Melbourne Derby. I really hope that it doesn't transition into more than that and go across a line. It was very physical last night in the fourth and final Melbourne Derby, which the Melbourne Ice, they take the season series 3-1. And now they still sit at the top of the table. As I said, haven't lost in regulation after 20 games, which is quite amazing. Drop a comment in the chat if you watched the Derby last night and let me know what you thought of it. I know there was some Sydney Ice Dogs fans that also travelled down for the weekend to catch up with some friends, and they were there last night as well. So I wonder what they thought about it as a fan of the Melbourne Derby. The Newcastle North Stars. I wanted to highlight them today on my menu because I think the Newcastle North Stars have a massive weekend ahead of them. When you think about in terms of the season and the standings, and there's a couple of big games across the entire weekend. The Newcastle North Stars, they travel down to face the Melbourne Ice today, and then they'll face the Melbourne Mustangs tomorrow. They're currently sitting on 21 points, the Newcastle North Stars, and the Adelaide Adrenaline, who are sitting just outside the top 6 on 14. And we will have a look at the standings a little bit later on in the show. But I think it's a big weekend for the North Stars, who walked away from last week with back-to-back losses on home ice. And I've written about the North Stars on my website, andrewkmacdougall.com.au, and I've spoken about the North Stars before and the roster they have. I think they've got a really strong roster. And this weekend's massive because if the Adelaide Adrenaline on home ice, who welcome the Brisbane Lightning this weekend, can pull off back-to-back wins, and all of a sudden it really sets up an exciting finish to the season with the North Stars holding on to 6th spot because the Canberra Brave, obviously, with their weekend last weekend, they've moved up into 5th, and the Canberra Brave, I feel like they're starting to get going as well. They've welcomed back Jake Ratcliffe, and they've got their imports all sorted. Alex Tetro looked really good in net last week for the Canberra Brave. If they can get that sort of production from Tetro, we know how good Tetro can be coming up in the big moments we've seen in the Goodall Cup last season with the shutout. So we know what Tetro can do and put Canberra on his back. So I feel like the Canberra Brave are starting to get going and starting to roll as well. So it's a big weekend for the Newcastle North Stars. They really need to get either one win, or if they can get 2 wins this weekend on their trip down to Melbourne, it's going to do a mountain for them in terms of keeping the Adelaide Adrenaline off their heels, who the Adrenaline are still eyeing eyeing off a top 6 finish, and this weekend for them is absolutely massive, the adrenaline. So if you got a thought about the Newcastle North Stars, just drop a comment in the chat. I'll get it up on the screen and we can have a discussion about it as well. As you can see on the menu there, I've got Ducks signing. It was announced recently that the Melbourne Ducks have announced their very first import signing, and I did drop an article with some quotes there from Melbourne Ducks head coach Jeremy Muir on my website. So the Melbourne Ducks have announced the first import signing for their debut AWIHL season. Jelena Gurkovic, the Hungarian international, will be suiting up for the Melbourne Ducks, which is very, very exciting for the Australian Women's Ice Hockey League, which I am heavily involved in. I'm a play-by-play commentator, and I do a lot of content for the Australian Women's Ice Hockey League. To have someone like Gurkovic arriving in the A-Dub and for the Melbourne Ducks is absolutely massive. A former Elite Women's Hockey League champion, gold and bronze medals across Div 1, A and B for the Hungarian national team. One of the things that stood out for me was a former plus-minus winner on the Elite Women's Hockey League. So it does show that Gurkovic can get forward and put up numbers, but is also sound defensively. And I think it is very much a statement signing. I think for the Melbourne Ducks to announce this Jelena as the first import, I think it just shows that they really are putting forward the case that they're not there just to make up numbers. They are really looking to have a strong first season in the Australian Women's Ice Hockey League. And it's a bit of a statement signing, I think, to what we probably can expect going forward with the Melbourne Ducks this season in the Australian Women's Ice Hockey Leagues. And it's very exciting to have another team in the Australian Women's Ice Hockey League. So I just wanted to highlight that first signing for the Melbourne Ducks. It was a bit of a, I suppose, landmark signing in the end for the Melbourne Ducks and the Australian Women's Ice Hockey League this season, to see Jelena get signed by the Ducks. As we got a comment here from Sky Eastham, I'd love to see Adelaide in finals. I feel like they need it. I totally agree. Sky, it's been way, way too long. As we had a chat with Eric Bolner last week, they're very staunch. And as Eric described, it's not thick and thin, it's thick with the Adelaide Adrenaline fans. And I couldn't think of anything better than seeing the Adelaide fans at finals and the Adelaide Adrenaline in finals. They got a loyal following. They travel hard, as Eric described as well, when it was the Avalanche and the PWHL. They traveled heavy. So it would be good to see the Adrenaline in the finals, and obviously mixing it up when you have different teams. It's not the same teams all the time showing up in finals. Get some new faces in there. It's only good for the competition. As we go through the menu, as we've got standings there next, the Melbourne Ice, as we mentioned earlier, they're just sitting top, comfortable. And when I watched the Ice last night, you do get a thought, who's going to stop them? That's what I feel when I watch them. They're just so solid. They had some players out last night. The Hughes brothers, Burgo on the defensive end didn't play as well. Jamie Burke wasn't there. So they had some players missing. Still haven't lost in regulation. 20 games played, 15 wins, 2 overtime wins and 3 overtime losses, 52 points. It's quite outstanding to see the Melbourne Ice where they are. Well clear of the competition. The Perth Thunder, they sit in second spot. Perth don't play this weekend. So they sit out this week. Got the Mustangs in third. Still trying to find their form, the Melbourne Mustangs. When they're on, their best is good enough to beat anyone in the competition. It's just trying to find that consistent game for the Melbourne Mustangs. They definitely have the roster to beat anyone in the competition. So they sit in third in a very healthy position. The Brisbane Lightning, they have a massive weekend ahead of them. So they sit in fourth on 27 points. They play the Adrenaline in Adelaide. So that's a massive, massive contest. And when we had Eric last week on the show, mentioned that these teams have to play each other 2 games this weekend and then 2 games later on in the season. So those 4 games that the Lightning and the Adrenaline play against each other, absolutely massive in terms of the season and the competition for both of those teams. In 5th spot, as we mentioned, the Brave, the North Stars in 6th spot on 21 points, and the Adrenaline obviously in 7th on 14, and the Rhinos in 8th on 12 points. And the Rhinos will be travelling to AIS Arena today to face the Canberra Brave in a big contest for the Rhinos as well. So it'll be interesting to see how the Rhinos go against the Brave. The Rhinos, they're an interesting team. I have mentioned in my articles that Anand Oberoi gets overworked every single week, an outstanding goaltender, but just faces too many shots. And the Rhinos, on the other hand, are struggling to score high volumes as well. They're very low on the goals for across the competition. So it'll be interesting to see how the Rhinos go over in Canberra today when they travel to face the Brave. Finals do need more double denim. Thanks for the comment, Andrew. I'm guessing he's talking about Adelaide getting into finals. More double denim. I absolutely agree. Maybe Andrew can rock the double denim at the finals this season, being a Melbourne Ice fan. So that's the challenge for you, Andrew. Rock the double denim at the finals. It'd be good to see. I'll bring up the schedule for today, for this weekend. Obviously, this is without the derby last night. As I mentioned, we do have the Central Coast Rhinos and the Canberra Brave facing off at AIS Arena. The North Stars, they'll travel down to face the Melbourne Ice. The Brisbane Lightning, they'll travel to Adelaide to face the Adrenaline. And then there's only 2 games tomorrow. The North Stars will face the Mustangs and the Lightning will face the Adrenaline on the back of the second half of a back-to-back. Some big games in there. It's not a packed schedule where all teams are playing across the 2 days, but there are some big games on that schedule this weekend. And when I was looking at giving my pick of the week, I was tossing up whether or not it was the North Stars. But then I've thought about it, and I know it's a big weekend for the North Stars, but I think now when I look at the schedule, I think the Brisbane Lightning Adelaide series is my pick of the weekend. I think just the implications of those 2 games in terms of finals and placings and the top 6, I think that's absolutely massive, those 2 games in Adelaide. And Adelaide, they might have lost their 2 games in Melbourne last weekend, but they were coming off some home wins before they travelled to Melbourne last weekend, and they'll be returning home, and they'll want to put in 2 good shifts against a very, very good Brisbane Lightning team. So I think that's my pick of the week. Drop a comment in the chat. Let me know what you're looking forward to this weekend. What's your pick of the week for week 12 in the AIHL? I think it's the Brisbane Lightning and the Adelaide Adrenaline. They're the two games I'm looking forward to seeing what comes out of it, the results, and all that sort of stuff. Obviously, the Brisbane Lightning, very talented. We're pushing the Melbourne Ice at the top of the standings earlier on in the season, and the Adelaide Adrenaline are starting to work into their season. They might have left their run too late, and the early season form might do them out of a final spot, but they are hanging around and they're giving themselves every single opportunity to make the finals. So, drop a comment. I will be signing off shortly. I think I've gone through everything that I need to get through today on the Morning Hockey Shot. I hope you're enjoying the content as well. I say this every single week. If you are enjoying the content, please let me know with the guests that I have on. As I've said from the start, we've had Jeff Coop on for the first show, Chris Lang-Gill for the second show, Eric Bolner last weekend, and Stephen Campbell as well was on today. So please just let me know if you do like the content that we're putting out on the Morning Hockey Shot and the guests that I'm bringing on, because I'm just trying to have people that are outside the box, people that aren't, I suppose, players or people that you don't often see or hear from outside of, I suppose, commentary and all that sort of stuff. So they're just people that see the game and they cover a certain team and they can give a unique perspective. And obviously having a CEO like Stephen Campbell come on and just give a bit of a background on AIS Arena. I really do appreciate it. So I hope everyone enjoyed that as well this morning. As we've got Sky Eastham in here as well, teddy bear toss tonight. Yes, that is one thing that is happening tonight for the Melbourne Ice. They have their annual teddy bear toss, which is very exciting. It's something that you see across the world, in North America. The teddy bear toss, I think it's a great thing. To see all the teddy bears getting thrown onto the ice when the time comes, and I think it's a great thing. So hopefully you've got your teddy bear. I don't know how it works with all that sort of stuff, but I do hope that you have your teddy bear ready, and it's a great initiative from the Melbourne Ice. So everyone who's getting out there today for the Melbourne Ice Newcastle North Stars, enjoy the teddy bear toss, enjoy the game. I think that'll do it for me today. So hit the like, the subscribe, all that sort of stuff. Follow, share, drop a comment as well. It's all good for the algorithm. It all helps the show grow to hopefully continue to be better and better and have more guests on. As I said, I think it was last week. I'm hoping to continue this on through when the Australian Women's Ice Hockey League starts as well. Get some key people and key players in the game as well throughout the Australian Women's Ice Hockey League season. So please just share, comment, like, all that sort of stuff. It just helps the show grow and obviously my platform grow, which means that hockey grows as well. I will be heading up to Canberra next weekend, so there will not be a show next weekend because I will be on a flight up to Canberra. So there will be no morning hockey shot next week, but it will return the following weekend with some awesome guests lined up as I go through each team. That was my aim when I wanted to start this show, was get the key people, the commentators, the media people, the CEOs, and go through each team and have a chat about each team, a different team each weekend. So I think that'll do it for the morning hockey shot today. Hopefully Instagram's back up and running next week if that's where you view the show from. The streaming service that I use, having trouble with Meta and Instagram, so that wasn't working today, unfortunately. But the morning hockey shot will return, not next weekend, the weekend after, with another awesome guest lined up. Thanks for tuning in. You can check out my work at andrewkmacdougall.com.au. I am across the socials on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. Andrew K. MacDougall is the handle. Give it a follow, subscribe, all that sort of stuff. Give it a like, and get involved, and let me know what you think of the show and the morning hockey shot. Kickstart your weekend. If you're heading out to a rink, enjoy it. Cheer loud. I hope your team wins. If you're playing today, hope you get a win. I'm not playing this weekend, but I am training this afternoon. So that'll be my day sorted out on the ice. Until next time, safe travels. Have a great hockey weekend, and I'll talk to you in a couple of weeks for the morning hockey shot. I'm Andrew MacDougall. I'll see you next time.
Step 1, wake up early, gonna rise with the sun. Step 2, get some good, some food in you. Step 3, think real hard about what you want to be. Step 4, everybody just do your thing.
Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up, today's gonna be a